Good evening, everyone. We're going to make a start in a couple of minutes. If you're grabbing a coffee, if you're grabbing something to eat, why don't you do that now and then come and find your seat? And if our panelists could make their way to the stage, that'd be good. We'll get going in just a moment. Thanks. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Gracefields. If we haven't met, my name is Murray. I'm one of the pastors here at Gracefieldschurch. I always used to think the term hack, I used to use it in a negative way. So I'd hack around the golf course, or that day at work was a real hack. But in more recent times, actually kind of through the software industry, hack has become a positive thing. So here's a definition of what a life hack is. It's a strategy or technique adopted in order to manage one's time and daily activities in a more efficient way. That is what we're hoping to get to tonight. No pressure on the panel, but they're all experienced and skilled to give us some hacks in their different areas. Why we're doing this is it's as you may know, a third in a series of events during the season that we call Winter Life. And it's an opportunity for us as a Gracefields family to connect outside of church on a Sunday, because church is more than just getting together on Sundays. It's also good to connect with those in our community and to welcome people in who wouldn't normally come to church on a Sunday. If that's you, you're so welcome here tonight. But then also to, I guess, try and harness some of the gifts, some of the experience of our Gracefields members, and to share that with the community so that we might be helped, especially in these areas we're looking tonight. The format for tonight, each person's going to speak for about 10 to 15 minutes on their particular topic. Then I will ask them a few quick questions. We'll get through all four of them, and then we'll open up to the floor for questions. So please make a note of your questions. We'll try and get through as many as we can. But hopefully tonight is helpful. Let me take a moment to introduce our panel. Firstly, Ewan Morrison, he'll be up first helping us with some hacks in the area of gardening. He grew up in Fish Hoek, lived overseas for a number of years. In fact, when he was in Oz, in Canberra, he studied horticulture and landscaping. He learnt his trade working in domestic gardens with a tiller. Is that a person or a company? A person called a tiller. And he's a nice person? And he's from Hungary. Okay, great. Well, the brand kind of goes before him, but he's a highly regarded horticulturist. Since 2017, Ewan has been back in the valley, and he leads living landscapes and garden care, highly skilled gardening service, and looking forward to hear what he has to say about our gardens. Then there's Loida Triana. We should have put Loida first because she's heavily pregnant. And who knows what might happen tonight. We might get some interesting life hacks and kind of delivering a baby. We'll see. She's a local swimwear designer with a passion for color, clothes, and all things pretty. She grew up in Ecuador, and so she's had experience of designing fashion, putting together wardrobes for a range of different climates. Lloyd, so pleased you could help us tonight. Then we've got John Alexander. who is a photographer. He's been privileged to work with some very important, very powerful people, taking photographs for them. I mean, I'd love to see the memoirs you write one day, John. But what intrigued me, of course, the photography. You look at the photographs of these guys and their profiles. Everyone else just sent through something from the cell phone. John is kind of black and white. There's a bit of product in his hair. He's giving it the kind of the Zoolander cold steel look. There we go. Look at that. Of course, the photographers. Yeah, you had to have a good one, yeah. And then finally, David Bierkus, as he said in the bio there, he's spent 23 years running a technology company. He's a firm believer in a boermarke plan. He pours too much time into researching how to get the best bang for the buck. And I've been to David's house. His garden, almost like his kind of mini farm. You just see in the way David and Michelle live that they love solving problems. They've been going through a major building project. There have been a lot of problems to solve. And so when it comes to load shedding and power and being efficient, Dave is a great guy to hear from. So looking forward to that. That's enough from me. I'm going to hand straight over to Ewan. You're up first.
Pardon?
Over to you. Go for it.
Oh, sure. I'm going to move around a bit, so I'll start up here, but most of my stuff's down there. How many of you guys were at the AI talk last week? Okay, a fair few of you. I learned a lot in that talk. It was actually quite scary how much AI there is. And I didn't really even know about ChatGPT until Thursday. Found out that's pretty useful. And so when I was quite nervous about presenting tonight, so I went to ChatGPT and this is what it said. The question was, write a 10-minute presentation on gardening on a budget in Fishhook, Cape Town. ChatGPT says, title, Gardening on a Budget in Fishhook, Cape Town, Nurturing Nature Without Breaking the Bank. Opening, hello everyone. Hi. Today, we're diving into the world of gardening on a budget specifically tailored for Fishhook, Cape Town. Whether you have a small backyard, a balcony, or just a windowsill, we explore the practical tips to create a thriving green space without spending a fortune. Let's get started. Okay. It came up with 10 different categories. I won't do the whole thing from ChatGPT, because you could have done that yourself. But I'll tell you what the outline. The first one was understanding Fishhook's climate, which I'll be touching on. Selecting drought-resistant tolerant plants, which is also quite a good one. Utilizing seed swaps and plant sales. Starting from seeds and cuttings, which I'll be demonstrating a bit there. Organic composting. Mulching for water conservation. Rainwater harvesting. Repurposing containers and DIY planters. Local plant swaps and sharing, and adopting an integrated pest management plan. The conclusion I'll use at the end. So what I'll start with is what they spoke about was the local climate. Okay. So it said a whole lot about the climate, which was really good, but it didn't have any local knowledge. So local knowledge would be things like knowing that there's a southeaster here that really blows in the summer, and the northwester storms in the winter, and the salt air, and the sandy soil. It doesn't know any of that. So that's what we need to remember when we're looking at local gardens. Okay, probably the most expensive part of your garden will be your plants. You go to your local nursery, you probably get 10 plants for about 800 Rand. So I think it's really important that you select the correct plants that are going to survive, and plants that are going to thrive. You don't want to go and buy a 100 Rand plant, plant it, and then 2 weeks later it's dead. That's what often happens. And then you buy the same plant, and it doesn't work. So to save a lot of money, you need to select the right plants. So what you want to do is you want to go to the nursery, you want to look at the tub, you want to read on the tub what it's suitable for. Does it like shade? Does it like sun? Does it like water? Is it drought tolerant? Will it tolerate wind? The nursery will know this information, and you need to apply that to your garden where you want to plant the plants to give it its best chance. If your plant survives, you don't have to buy another one. All right, Fishhook has very sandy soil. So it's really important to get organics and life into your soil. So when you're planting, always use compost. The more, the better. You can't use too much compost in Fishhook. All right. Just a few ideas on creating a garden. Like if you've got a space that you want to plant and make look pretty, then the key thing is to choose a few focal plants that are going to look pretty with either foliage or flowers, texture, and they're the plants that everyone's going to look at that you're going to go, wow. So you choose those and you put them in the places you wish, which are normally at the back of a bed, or if it's a bed you go all the way around, it's sort of in the middle. And then fill the bed with low growing ground covers that will spread quickly, that are tough. You don't need to buy too many, and they will just spread and cover, and that will save you on plant buying. Right, another thing that's a real bugbear is weeds. I hate weeds. So pull them out, don't leave them, and they die in the summer and they come back in the winter. But if you pull them out when they're young, they don't seed, so it's less weeding. Also, if you get something that you don't want, like, I don't know, maybe a palm tree starts growing next to your garage, pull it out when it's small. Don't let it grow into a tree. It costs you a fortune to get rid of. One thing I really don't like is weeds in paving. And the easy way to get rid of that, cheapest and easiest way, is hot water. When you boil a kettle for something and you go sit on your patio, have a cup of tea, take the kettle with you, just pour some hot water on the weeds and they'll kill them off. All right, now I'm going to go down there for the more interesting stuff, more fun stuff. Well, I think it is. So we'll start with filling your garden. So propagation, easy propagation to fill your garden. So the easiest way to do that is to copy nature. So nature likes to divide plants on its own, drops branches, they grow. So there's a couple of ways to do it. First one is cuttings. Nice, easy example here. A speckworm. Get some secateurs, nice and sharp. Cut a branch off. You take the lower leaves off. So there's a couple of buds at the bottom, or nodes at the bottom. And you've got a little stem. You just stick that in the ground. And it will grow. Don't really water it. Use compost. And just stick it in the ground, and it will grow. The roots will come out where you've taken those old leaves off. Another one, very easy. Here's a good one. These are all over Fishhook. Cut off a piece like that. Just cut another piece off. Stick that in the ground. That'll grow. If you've got one in your garden, you can have lots. And another one. These are all succulents, but you can do it with other plants. So cut it off. There you go. Take the bottom leaves off. Well, stick it in the ground. It will grow. All right, you can do that for geraniums. You can do it for daisies. Most plants that are growing in the area that have fleshy leaves or fleshy stems, cut them, take the leaves off the bottom, stick it in the ground, give them some water, and they'll grow. Another way is division. The plants do this on their own. There's some wild garlic. You can see what I've taken it out of the pot already. There's the roots. There's your 4 plants. It came out of the ground as one. All you do is, I'm not going to do it here, it's going to make a big mess, but you just break off your separate plants with the roots, stick them in the ground where you want. You got 4 plants. Next year, you'll get more. It just keeps going. Another one, this is, so you can do that with clivias, agapanthus, most longleaf, fleshy plants, or any plant that we see it growing from the base, you can take it out and reproduce. Okay, another way of plants propagate is by layering. That's when they send out little babies like this. You see, this one's got it, and I've got some more. The hen chickens, and then the bulbine. So this came out of a client's garden. So a lot of my stuff does, actually. So this was growing on the grass. It was growing out of the garden bed onto the grass. So we just cut it there. And now we've got a whole lot of plants. If you can see it's got roots. So if I just cut one of those off there, you see, there's your plant, there's your roots. Put it in the ground. You got probably 6 or 7 plants from something that would have probably gone in the bin because it was growing on the grass. Another, and the hen and chickens, that sounds pretty simple. You just cut it off, stick it in the ground. All right, so that will be a good way to fill a garden bed, or fill your garden. You've got a bare space, you've got some plants there, cut some, fill the bare space. Or if you're starting a new garden, don't need to buy all the plants to fill up the whole bed immediately. Just buy some that you can propagate and fill the bed. All right, now I'm going to talk a bit about pruning. Okay, there's 3 main tools we use. Secateurs, which are for fine pruning or small branches like these ones. Slightly bigger branches, you get the loppers or long-handled secateurs. They're for trees, small tree branches, like probably anything up to about that size. And then you get the pruning saw, which is this one. This is a really good tool if you know how to use it, because unlike normal saws where you push to cut, you actually pull, but it's nice and curved, so you get to small spaces. Make sure your tools are sharp. It always helps. Okay, so people ask me, when do I prune? Quick answer, simple answer, when the plant is too big, cut it. If you want to get a bit more precise, and a simple way to remember is after flowering. If a plant's flowered and it's finished flowering, then you can prune it. So when it's too big or after flowering. One of my favorite things to do is prune trees. I love sculpting trees. What I really hate in trees is when people prune them incorrectly and they leave stumps. So you've got a trunk, nice big tree with a trunk there, and you've got a little stump, and it always dies back. And we always hit our heads on those when we work in gardens, so we don't like them. We call them headhunters, and they must go. All right, so this is how you prune a tree so you don't get headhunters. This one's pre-cut. So another thing you've got to do when you prune a tree, you've got to make a clean cut. All right, so you don't want the tree to rip or shred, because then it just allows it will either die off, or you'll get infection in the tree or termites. So what I mean is, like this branch here, earlier what I did was I cut it. So if you can imagine, this is hanging on a tree. I'll attach to a tree there, and I'm cutting. The branch is heavy there. It's going to rip. Okay? And it's going to rip all the way down the tree. And that's like a big graze. You don't want a big graze on your leg. Cut's better than a graze. So what the trick is, before you cut the branch, you actually do a cut underneath. I've already done one. A little cut underneath. About a third of the way up. Branch falls off. And it stops. The rip stops there. Then you cut your tree where you want it cut. So for example, I could cut there now. And that would be a clean cut because there's no weight. It will just fall off and you get a beautiful clean cut. All right, now, last thing, the headhunters. If you're going to prune, this is what a headhunter is. That thing there that gets you there. Anyway, so when you cut it, you want to make sure that you cut close to the trunk Of course, this is now been cut like this one, so the rip's already happened. I've started to pre-cut this to the soil. I'll just finish off the secateurs. And that's what you're left with. That there, just a little lump on the edge of the tree. There's some old cuts. You can see a little bulge there, a little bulge there. And that tree will heal over nicely, won't get any infections or termites. And the very, very last thing with pruning is you always cut with your blade on the plant side. So if I'm cutting, let's cut this one. So if I'm cutting this, here's my secateurs, there's the blade, there's the flat side, the blade is at the bottom, and it cuts like that. The reason for that is when you cut, that top piece there squashes and bruises a plant. So what you want is you want the plant to have a clean cut, and that's why you keep your blade on the plant side. Okay, plants, just a few examples of plants that will spread quickly. There you go, there's a feihi, the ground cover. That'll plant spread quickly, another one you can just stick in the ground. There's a plectranthus, that also spreads nicely, that's good in the shade, good. And feature plants, that could be a feature plant, speckworm could be a feature plant, and the crassula could be a feature plant, anything that's going to be big and round. All right, done.
Ian, thanks so much. We'll get questions from the floor later on, but a quick one. So, is there a time of year when we should be really kind of focusing on gardening, like saying, like this is the best time to be planting or pruning, or is there a particular time of year when that's good? Or spring's a good time for plants to flower and grow. So you don't really want to be doing any pruning just before spring or during spring. You're going to cut all your flowers off, unless of course you have to cut the plant because it's growing over your driveway or something like that. Midsummer's not a great time because the plant's under stress already from lack of water, so it's generally better to leave them alone in midsummer. So autumn, after flowering, early winter, yeah. Now you mentioned the kind of bit about the water, and I mean I know all of those plants are really water-wise. Is it possible to get a garden that doesn't need extra irrigation?
Without being succulents?
Or just generally, like can you actually, as I said, when you talk about a water-wise garden, if you're strictly water-wise,
yeah,
can you just come up with something that doesn't need much extra?
Yeah, you can. Most people just fall back on the succulents, but Cape Town, we all know, doesn't get water for about 8 months of the year. You go walking out in Silvermine, anywhere in the mountains, yeah, or the Flay areas, and you see there's plenty of beautiful plants there. They're growing without irrigation. So any indigenous plants will work. And yeah, once they're established, because everything needs water to get established, so after the first year or so, then they should grow on their own.
And so one more thing, and this, you must feel totally free to punt your services. But if let's say somebody who's using a gardening service, you've got them for a day, what is the best use of for you and your team coming in for a day? What should clients be telling you to do? What is if you're going to get outside help for a day, what is the best way of deploying you? Well,
the best thing is for the client not to tell you to do anything, really. Because you don't take your car to the mechanic and say, do this to my car.
Okay.
So it's good if they tell you what they want, like, yes, I want my garden to look like this, or I want this area opened up, or I want this area to keep privacy from the neighbors. So some basic things like that, and then we will do what we think is required to bring that garden back to where it should be. The big impact thing is what we normally do. So pruning a tree will give you a big impact. Getting rid of weeds and mowing the lawn will give you a big impact, and just clearing paths so that you can walk along them. those are all big impact things which will create an instant transformation.
Okay. So you want free reign. You just want to.
Yeah.
I'll try and remember that next. I'll try and remember that next time you come to my place.
Yeah. No, that's please do.
Ewan, thanks very much.
Okay. Right.
Lloydie, over to you.
Okay. I actually wanted this one because I'm Latino, so I move my hands a lot. But I know it sounds like a very girly topic, but if you have a body and you wear clothes, this talk is also for you. So just don't be stressed, men of trades and everything, okay? I saw this tweet today. According to Netbank, in this 2023, people are spending more time, more money in their home loans, their cars, their groceries, education, healthcare, and food, and less money in home improvement, alcohol, which is a good thing, and clothing, which means that our monthly income has actually shrunk. What sign can I do? Go next? So, yes, I'm Loide. I moved here when I was 28 years old. I come from Ecuador. And for those who don't know where Ecuador is in the tropical side of the world. We don't have seasons. So I was a 20-year-old that landed in Muizenberg, of all places, without zero knowledge of how to dress up for seasons or how to dress for seasons. So you saw me the first 5 years wrapped in blankets because I couldn't really wrap my hair around having 4 different closets or 3. That was really terrible. And I spotted that I had 3 very, very difficult problems. First, I quit my job and I came to follow the love of my life. And I got married, you know. But everything was so expensive because, life is expensive. Also, when you relocate, many of you have relocated into this country, and many people we know have relocated into other countries. We try to start from scratch. So I try to ask myself, what is my personal style? What do I actually like wearing? And I'm very guilty. I'm a very stereotype. I'm a Latin woman that likes dressing up. I just like nice, pretty pieces. But of course, I didn't have any money. So, next. So I actually kind of took several years to try to find my style. I started thinking in some basic concepts that I started thinking. What are my daily activities? What did I do? Did I stay at home or okay, but I'm going to translate it to you guys because it makes it more relatable. What do you do during the day? If you're having a problem, you want to feel a little bit like you want to reinvent yourself a little bit, what do? Do you pick up stuff every day? Mr. Gardener here has a tradesman look, and he probably has built his wardrobe based on that. He picks up stuff, he sweats, he drives, it's comfortable, you know? Are you super busy with your kids? Do you work from home? Do you have an office job? Also, I do talk a lot about when do I feel the best? Do I feel the best in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening? And then I choose my clothes based on that. Clothes that are going to make me feel later in the evening. It's called kind of dopamine dressing, but you guys can Google that. And this one is very cheesy. You will see it behind me. Do I smile when I see myself in the mirror? It's not about vanity, I promise you. But that little smirk that you have when you're combing your hair or when you're putting something that makes you feel happy, it actually changes your day. It's something that, oh yeah, well, actually, I didn't like these shoes yesterday, but I like them today. Maybe they do fit my style, you know? And the last one, do I know my correct size? Many of us have clothes in our wardrobes that have been there for like 15 years, and we're hoping that it's going to fit us next week with the diet that we are doing. And it's quite an unfair expectation that we have there. Can we? So I do believe that the journey to find your style starts in loving and accepting your body. If you guys attend Gracefields, please go back 2 weeks ago when Grant spoke about self-love and like how we are like creatures of God. Loving and accepting our bodies is so important because if we don't do it ourselves, who is going to do it for us? And I don't know if you remember, like 20 years ago, there was this cartoon, Pinky and the Brain, and the brain wanted to conquer the world. I believe that our bodies are our tools that we use to conquer the world, or at least attempt to. So we must treat these bodies. These are the only ones we have. We must find the best food, the best company, the best energy, and actually the best clothes we can afford. Next one. So our journey starts there and continues with actually knowing ourselves. Let's get practical about this. And it applies for men and it applies for women. How many of you men have been so frustrated because you don't really want to fit clothes? But at least you want to buy something sometimes just to feel good, you know? So you need to know your measurements. And I know it sounds like admin, but life itself is admin. So there are two types of measurements that you need to know. I think the word in English is girth, or like the around measurements, like the widest parts of your body. This, in my case, this one. And your hips, just so you know, you can go through your clothes, and also your length. Many of you buy pants in Woolworths and you buy like a 28 length or a 31 length. You guys need to know your measurements. We cannot live in times where you buy online 20 pieces and you only end up using 10, and the other 10 get dropped back, get thrown away. We don't live in those times where we can like waste that amount of money, you know? So, based on that, I know, like, I only have 5 minutes more. I tend to talk a lot. Can we go next? Yeah. Based on that, can you raise your hands if you have watched Marie Kondo? Yes. They're like the Asian woman. Okay. Marie Kondo, for those who haven't watched it, you guys need to Google it. Marie Kondo is a woman that preaches like kind of like a renewal of a decluttering life. So let's Marie Kondo our closet. We know our sizes, we know our lifestyles, we kind of started having an idea of what do we want. So let's go. Next one. My suggestion for tonight, and I do it in a way, but I don't do it completely because I really like shiny things, and that's my weakness. My solution, I know, it is very difficult. But what I do know is not just theoretical, I also live a little bit by this, is to create a capsule wardrobe. A capsule wardrobe is a collection of items that work together separately, and they work together like as a mix and match, in a mix and match concept. You have like 5 t-shirts, 4 pairs of pants, 3 dresses, 4 pairs of shoes, and with them you can make infinite combinations depending on your level of energies and your level of activity. Thank you. But how do we start? We are going to start investing in our closet essentials, basics, a basic shirt, a basic t-shirt, regardless if you have an office job, regardless if you're a stay-at-home mom, regardless if you are a tradesman or a photographer. Like, you guys have a look, like the black t-shirt and the jeans. That's a look. Like, what clothes fit your lifestyle? And you invest in those core essentials of good quality that you know are gonna last forever. And you continue with neutral colors. You can just get neutral colors that match each other like most of the time. So you don't have to be scared of neutrals, and you can rethink some of the items you already have. Do you have a heirloom piece from grandma or from your aunt? I have heirloom pieces that I actually got in clothes swaps from people in this place, and I actually keep them I keep them in my closet and I wear them every time I can because they make me happy. So yeah, you can rethink stuff that you already have and incorporate them in this style look that you want to achieve. And we are going to start kind of building. We already know like what type of clothing goes in our capsule wardrobe. How many pieces? You can Google capsule wardrobe, and Google will tell you like you need anything between 20 and 65. It actually depends on your lifestyle. There is no formula. You can have 20 jackets and wear them all, which is kind of my case, but you can have 5 jackets and wear 1. It really varies from person to person and how interested you are in the items that are in your closet. But how do we start building that? Especially if we are really short on resources. I mean, Nedbank is not lying. We all have noticed an increase on absolutely everything. Clothes, food, I don't know, everything. My first idea for this was borrowing, sharing, or swapping clothes. And some people feel a bit squirmish about that. But I tell you that the best items of clothes are sometimes in charity shops because people have rejected things that have so much good quality and they still have like a 10, 15 years lifespan that we can benefit from. Repair, mend, dye, or patch. And again, like I cannot tell you how much joy it brings to be able to give a garment a second life. Like that jacket that we love, and it was navy blue like 5 years ago, and it became like light blue. I've taken jackets to the dyer, and they have come back like brand new. You guys can do it, and it literally only costs you like 100 rands to re-dye a jacket, especially if it's 100% cotton. If the threads are polyester, it will come with a beautiful line, and it's stunning. Sorry. And you can visit thrift and charity shops too. My whole outfit is thrifted, and I promise you I'm not wearing more than 300 rands. And it's sparkly and shiny, you know. And above all, like I'm also a creative. I also own a local brand, and can we go next? Thank you. I can tell you from a creative point of view, from a business owner point of view, whenever you can support local, the charity shop, the local tailor, the local dyer, the local everything, even the local designer. A lot of local designers that have brands, they run sales too. And if you are looking for an investment piece, those nice pair of boots that you want, wait for the designer to start getting rid of stock, because it happens in spring and it happens in the end of summer too. And save up every month. Oh, that's another tip that actually my husband reminded me that I do. I save like probably 50 rands, 100 rands a month just for me to have an impulsive buy if I see something on sale, even if it's for him. Oh, this is a very nice t-shirt for him. And all of a sudden I didn't have to unfork 350 rands for a t-shirt because I've been saving for 4 or 5 months for a t-shirt. And I think all of us can do it. It's just about kind of acknowledging who we are and having a little bit of discipline on not having impulsive buys. Because having impulsive buys leads to a messy closet and a messy lifestyle too. So yeah, I do have a lot of clothes, but I do wear them all because it's a lot of fun. And if you guys want, next, you guys can take a picture of that if it comes in your cell phone, because I just made a slide with ideas for secondhand or thrift shops that are here in the peninsula. I probably own several items from all of them, but a lot of these ones are really good curated stores. Some others are not, and you have to search. But did you guys know that the same 600-700 rands item of Levi's or I don't know, good brands of jeans can be found in the charity shop for like 50 rands. Just saying. And sorry, I'm just laughing at my own thing. And in my next slide, I do have also a list of places where do you find good deals online. Yaga.cosa. In Yaga, you can actually get rid of all those items that don't make you happy and make some bags from it. You can ship them through Pudo for 50 rands and recover some of that money and build a wardrobe that you want to be proud of. And some local brands there too.
Thanks so much. Just one really important, really serious question.
Yes.
Do you dress Wilhelm?
No.
Not?
No.
No, but you give him a lot of advice because he...
Yes. I say no. I say he tries the things. No. No. Yes.
So that's advice, yeah.
Yes. And you need to know like how difficult it was think of optimizing your wardrobe when 75% of your wardrobe doesn't fit you.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the online sites. It's a growing trend, as you say, these sites where you can trade in clothes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Have you had a good experience of that? I mean, because it's quite a mindset change to sort of buy off a website and expect it to be delivered. You can't try it on. Any advice for online shopping?
That's why you know your measurements, Murray.
Okay.
Because if there is an online seller, so let's say Caitlin wants to sell me this dress, and I'm a size 12, but size 12 sizes are so arbitrary for men and for women. But if you know that your back is 40 centimeters, you can ask the vendor, hey, what is the measurement of the back of that t-shirt? And then the vendor will measure it for you, and you will know.
And if it arrives, and I mean, even though you've measured, it ends up just not fitting nicely, all these sites you can send back, huh?
In Yaga, yes. In Yaga, I'm kind of a little bit doubtful about that.
Okay.
But in Superbalist, you can send things back.
Okay.
Facebook Marketplace, we all know what that is, and I don't think so. And there is another one called myrunway.cosa. You do have returns there. Yeah.
Awesome. Lodi, thank you so much. I'm sure there'll be questions afterwards. Thank you.
A pleasure.
John.
Can you, yeah. Hi, everyone. A lot more people than I thought. Mary invited me. I thought it'd be Mary and my wife and 2 kids. And they told me they weren't coming, so I was like, brilliant, only Mary. And I got to admit, there was a small part of me hoping your little lovely baby was going to come before I spoke tonight. Don't want to wish anything on you there, Dorian. Thanks so much for having me. I'm John. I'm based in Fishhook. I'm a photographer, and I'm a portrait photographer. I do a lot of traveling, a lot of international work. I started in the film industry, moved my way into photography not too long after being in the film industry, but mainly landscapes. And then I started selling landscapes on the side, and then people started saying, can you do this, which is involving people. I didn't want to photograph people at all. I hated the idea of that. So I kind of did people on the streets. I did a bit of reportage and stuff, but then I took on some commission work, and then I fell into sort of photographing people, and now that's the only thing I do really. So it's events. I did weddings for a long time, sort of high-end weddings, big Jewish weddings, 20 bridesmaids, 25 groomsmen, those kind of weddings. That almost killed me. I did that for a number of years, also Greek weddings. So I did all the smaller communities in South Africa, in Joburg, Cape Town, so a lot of traveling. But I learned a lot in weddings. So when Mary contacted me about doing this, I was saying sort of what level must I pitch this at, because I'm trying to give you some advice. So he mentioned cell phones, he mentioned sort of easier ways of us doing photography. So I've got kind of 3 ideas that I want to give you guys that could sort of help the person who's a hobbyist or avid, whatever you want to call it, got the photographic gear all the way to a cell phone. These kind of principles will pretty much help everyone. And they're pretty straightforward. You can just go to the next one there if you don't mind, Grant. You can actually skip this as well. You can go to the next one. All right, so a lot of people have heard of rules in photography. I prefer to call them patterns because I think we kind of work on patterns. We pick up on a pattern and then we run with it, and it becomes kind of second nature in your mind. So I advise anyway, looking at a lot of photographs, if you're a person who loves looking at National Geographics, you'll actually start to see photos following patterns, the way they're composed and things. And if you learn that, it becomes second nature and you'll be doing it on all your photographs. So they're called rules. I prefer calling them patterns. And it says their rules are meant to be broken. I must say, caveat, because we are in a church, not the 10 Commandments. We're talking about rules and patterns. All right, so you've got to understand the rules before you can break them, because just because you pulled off a photograph and it was kind of not in the rule base, but it looks great, it wasn't really, it was a bit of a fluke. But the people who are really good at it understand what the common idea of a photograph is, the way it should be, and they tweak it enough or manipulate it enough that it's just off that makes it very interesting. So you've got to understand the rules, and you've got to understand kind of how composition works, and that also happens in artwork. It's very similar to photography, and then you can kind of break them that way, and you can learn the secret ways of breaking them, or come up with new ways of doing it. And as I said before, learning patterns becomes second nature. The more you do it, it's kind of a repetitious thing. And it happens like that. It's like riding a bike. You know, you're battling, and all of a sudden you're on that bike and you're gone. It's the same thing with these patterns. Amazing. The brain picks up on the pattern. Once you pick up on that, then you'll obviously keep learning patterns, but those core ones you learn, and you'll be off with it. You can go with the next one there. All right, so this is the most common one. A lot of people may even know this. This really applies, and I actually started in landscapes. This kind of applies to mostly your backgrounds, but it also can work with portraiture and all different types of photography. And just remember that, because I'm going to get into the two other points that actually follow on from this, is that your background is as important as your subject, because we're using cell phones, we're photographing ourselves mostly, which I'm kind of not really a fan of, but a lot of people, that's how people are photographing themselves. So when I remember, because I learned on film, but even before I got into photography, you'd go away with your film. You know how those people who remember using film, go on holiday, get it processed, delivered over, and you sit with your family, and all the photos of what you were seeing. So if you stood in front of Notre Dame, you took a photograph of it. It was just those things. It was never you. Only on the 15th or 16th photograph, oh, there's a picture of you. Now every photo is me and Notre Dame, or me and Mount Everest. So it's a different way of doing things. But that the 1/3 land, 2/3 sky, or 2/3 land, 1/3 sky is one of those very common sort of rules that you follow, patterns. So when you see a landscape or see a background, you're generally looking for either making the land part 2/3 small sky, or go 1/3 big sky. Now these rules can be broken, as I said, but that's a really good starting point. So if you just go to the next slide. Okay. Again, you can kind of see it there. This is in the Dubai desert. This is doing 2/3 desert, and then obviously 1/3 sky. Pretty straightforward. Go to the next one. Sorry, I'm going to say that quite a bit because it's going. So now this is just, the one on the left is about a 28-year-old photograph. That's on film. The one on digital on the right, that's Cuba. You can see, even though it's not a landscape, I've kind of positioned it. And you can work both landscape and portrait. Your orientation works the same way. You can see I've put it into thirds. You can see on the landscape, it kind of runs with thirds, with that top third being sky. That's kind of like a very base point that you can work on. You can go to the next one. Sorry, this slide didn't work out well. I just noticed it on my iPad when I checked it out. But the one on the left is actually a longer portrait. That building goes further up. So she sits in the bottom third of it, and you've got that length of the building going up. And then there's a film also from a long time ago, the same thing. That's in Dublin, Ireland. That's Ellie Street, same thing, 2/3, 1/3. You can go ahead there. There's something a bit local for you people. Same sort of principle as well. You've got the 1/3, 2/3. Just to give you an idea, before I move into the next section, you go ahead there. Okay, this is an example of where it's broken. So the one on the left is running that principle, kind of. It just almost sits on the halfway, and it works because of the height of the stack on the left. But the one on the right is almost exactly 50-50. Now, the reason why there is because it's almost a perfect reflection. So by putting it in a 50-50, you make the reflection more believable, because if you flip the photograph, it's almost exactly the same. Once you go 2/3, 1/3, then you break up that mirror. You still see the mirror, but you give, okay, I know which is the real one, and I know which. So you can use it for effect. All right. Okay, just a quick little video here. The next section I'm talking about is the position of the subject in relation to the background. So just have a look at this video quickly. Okay. Still haven't figured out if that's actually real or a joke, but yeah, so this is quite a common thing I see when I actually get to see other photographers getting into the photography world and starting out doing portraiture. The first thing they do is they always take their subjects or their couple, whoever they're working with, and they go, say, stand over there, and then they go around and they go look for the shot. Looking until they get their shot. You shouldn't have them in your shot. You should have them over here. You should still first frame what you want, because remember the background is as important as your subject. Frame it first, then you know exactly where they're going to be and you know what that shot is. And that applies to your cell phone. You know, you arrive at a place, quickly let's get a shot of you. Just take the time to look at what you're doing and look where you're going to put them in the frame. And it's a lot easier process instead of you trying to get that shot. Do that first, it's way easier. And also combined with that, if you can go to the next slide there. So you've got to double tap it there, it'll move to the next one. Okay, so it applies in portraiture, as I just said. It's actually one of the, I mean, there are very important, most important concepts in photography around exposure and all that, but this is the one that I think most people miss, is the subject relation to background. And once you understand this, it like literally takes your photos to the next level. Totally. So let's just move into the next. You can actually go into the next slide. Okay, so the one on the left is, sorry, that's quite contrasty, the image. It's not give you a good representation. Okay, so this is the same place. This is Chapman's Peak. Probably 10 to 12 years ago, on the left-hand side, maybe even longer. The one on the right, yes, I'm using an off-camera flash for the one on the right, which gives it a lot more light, gives it that beautiful sort of look. But there, I just said, it's such a beautiful view. I just stick them up and I just take the photograph because I'm going to expect that everyone's going to love the photograph because I've got a beautiful couple and I've got a beautiful view. But the impact when you actually move them into the more neutral area of the photograph, they're now in the sky, which has no busy background. It separates them from everything. Against the one on the left, they totally get just lost in the rock. Your eye just moves left and right across the picture. The one on the right, you just focused on them, because they're in that neutral part of the frame. So you might have mountains to the left, you may have sky to the right, move your subject to the right. Put them in that open, neutral space. If they've got a busy bush or tree behind their heads, move them away. You don't want all this happening behind them. Move them to the most neutral part of the frame. You can go to the next one. Okay, this is in Cyprus. I was doing a wedding, and I kind of walked around. Because they couldn't move much, I had to find the shot kind of. So I started on the left picture, and I said, oh, it's such a neutral rock, they probably will stand out. But it didn't work. They get totally lost there. Just by moving more to the right, putting them into the sky, still incorporating the rock, it transforms the photograph into a much nicer photograph. So very important where you put your subject in relation to your background. They work together. Okay, so this is on Nordic Beach as a bride. She wanted black and white photos. She had beautiful galloping down the beach in her wedding dress. Because she wanted black and white and it was quite a contrasty day, it was actually in the midday because that's the only time we could get the horse, is that if I had stood up tall, the background would totally blend in with the horse. Like you just wouldn't get that impact. So it was very important that I went as low as I could on the sand, that her and the horse, as much as I could get into the sky, because that's going to make her pop. That's going to make her stand out. All right. Next. All right. So this is just the street at one of the wine farms. You can see all the busy lines on the left, the busy lines on the right. The most neutral part of that frame is the out of focus sort of sunspot in the back. So it's very deliberate that I put them there because that's where they're going to stand out the most. Again, also one other trick is that if you're forced to have busy backgrounds if your phones have the portrait mode, which blurs the background, it softens the background. If those are using more sort of bigger cameras, you can obviously open up your aperture and soften that background. You can have busy backgrounds if you can soften and blur that background as well. Next one. Again, putting them in a very neutral place, not directly in front of the sun, more to the right. It's not perfect. I don't quite like this photograph, but I just wanted to show you where they're positioned in relation to the scene. And again, going low, because if you imagine this picture on the left, their heads, if I stood at my normal height on this jetty, their heads would have been in line with that thatched roof, and they would have just been totally lost in the shot. So I got down and got them up in the sky, and that's what makes them pop. Also on the right, a neutral area as well. All right, you can go to the next one. Same apply, the one over Duocho. They're in the neutral space at the top on the left-hand side. Again, on the right-hand side, the same thing. Okay. All right, so the next rule is the horizontal lines or the horizon line positioning. So again, you've got the thirds that you're kind of working on your background. You've got the second position, second rule pattern where you want to put people into good spots in the frame. Now you've got to watch where horizon lines cut them. So you don't want your horizon line catching people, particularly out of all those lines you see there. The neck is the worst, and I would say the knees is the second worst. All right, so if you catch people on the midriff, it's not that bad. Sometimes you're forced to, if you want those big sky shots where they're standing on a very limited piece of land, then the ankles are, it's okay if you do that. But generally, try get here, here, and here. It makes a big difference to the photograph. All right, so it's very seldom thought out. I notice a lot of people, where I see a photo, they really like their photo, and that just bugs me, but maybe I get a little bit excited about it. Take the time in your photograph, I know it's difficult, but just take your time to watch those things. And it's not just horizons, it's your framing as well. So the way you frame it, you don't want to catch the frame on the knee, you don't want to catch the frame here, and you don't want to catch the frame here. All right, if you're doing a chair, you've got serious problems. But what's that? When you're framing them, yeah, you don't want to have all this headspace and catch the bottom of the frame on their chin. You could do it for an artistic thing, but you've got to be very particular how you do it. Okay, you can go to the next picture. So the two pictures on the right and left are not mine. I tried to find the name to credit them. I couldn't, so we'll credit Google for them. You see the framing catches them on the knee. That's a framing example. That's not necessarily horizon. The one on the right is probably the most common type of photo that I see with most people with their phones. It's all that headspace, all that ridiculous amount of headspace, faces directly in the middle of the frame, and you caught them on the line there. Just lower that, get less headspace, catch them more on their thighs, and it totally makes that photograph a better photograph. The one in the middle is mine, and it's one of those that irritate me because the sky that night was really close to, sun had gone down. It was the most epic sky. You had this pillar of cloud on the right, and I caught them here because I was in a rush. I just learned over the years, you settle down, concentrate, and you get it. So yes, okay, photograph, but not the way it should be. All right, next one. Okay, this is an example where I'm not talking about the horizon line interfering so much with the people because they're quite far away. But if you look on the left-hand side, this is Mauritius. That horizon line is catching the exact line of that jetty. You want to separate those two. You want to see the sea because you want to know where the jetty is in relation to the ocean. So the one on the right, I just went up a bit, got to get high because I was as high as I could on the left. Stood up on my tippy toes. I just got a bit of sea and it transforms the image. All right, next one there. Okay, this is where this rule can be broken. If you're very clever about it, and I'm not saying that this photograph I did it on purpose, but I'm showing you where it can work. If you catch people in a natural moment and you catch that line across the wrong place, it actually adds authenticity that you caught it by chance because it gives you the idea that the image wasn't set up. So when you break these kind of rules, but you're doing it on the fly, maybe a running shot or a laughing shot, and they can see these odd things happening, it actually brings authenticity to the photograph. You can go to the next one. Same thing again, you're catching on the head, which you don't generally do, but it works because it's a totally natural moment. It's not set up, or it was set up. I'm just telling you, it's meant to look like it's not set up. All right, go ahead. And this is an example, again, where it's okay if it's across the body in those areas, because here I was shooting at a very shallow depth of field. On your phone, you can use that portrait mode. If you have really blurred backgrounds, because they become patterns more than actual hard lines, then it's okay. Then you can get away with that. Yeah, so those are the three things that if you work on, just your background. In those thirds, try that. Subject in relation to where you put them. So look at your shot first, put your person in, and then just watch for harsh lines and stuff running through their body. Cool. Right.
John, so do you only work for good-looking clients?
Everyone's good-looking. Especially after I've received the final payment. Everyone's good-looking up to that point, and then I'm quiet after that.
Big question, maybe this is a whole other presentation.
Yeah.
But if any people here are like me, it's one thing taking the photograph. The biggest nightmare is a system to manage your photos. Any quick advice on that? I mean, is it just the discipline of...
Not so much storage or management, because once you get into photography, if that's what you want to do, the reality is that buying hard drives becomes as regular as buying, I don't know, stationery for your kid's school. It's just one of those things you've got to plan for. So if you're just very good at getting back from your shoots and immediately not waiting 2-3 weeks to do something with those photos, if you get in a good habit of just storing them, make it habit. So come back from your trip or wherever it is, first thing you do is you back it up, make a second copy, move the 2 copies away from each other, preferably to someone else's house, or you've got a cloud service. I could never use a cloud service because I'm into the gazillions of gigabytes, so I could never use that. But so I send one drive away and one drive stays. But the harder part of that is editing the photographs.
Yeah, so you get the discipline to go through it soon after the trip.
Yeah.
Get rid of the ones you don't want.
Not that even, because I'm normally on an 8 to 10 week turnaround for big events. For certain clients, I've got to edit it that night. So, for example, I have clients that fly into the bush, and I have to do their portraits. So I get on the small planes with them, we fly into the Kruger. I'm doing the game photographing, and I'm photographing them with the game. We get back, they all party till 1 in the morning. I then go into editing. I have to edit that whole day by 2 or 3. I'm up on a 5 o'clock game drive, and we do this for a week. So when they leave and get on their flight back to America, they have all their edits done, handed over. I'm wrecked, but I kind of like it because I walk away from a finished job. Yeah, sure. But there's certain jobs where you literally have so many back-to-back jobs that you'll only see that edit in 8 weeks' time before you touch that first photograph because of the size of the edit.
And your kind of family photos, are they like?
No, I hardly do any. Mechanic with a broken car.
Okay. Yeah.
You know it is. Yeah.
John, thank you so much. That's fascinating.
No problem. Thanks.
All right, hang in there. One more hack to go. See. Let me just get my props. All righty, load shedding. I'm not going to go into the deep questions about life, about how long load shedding is still going to last. Have we got another 10 years, 100 years, 3 months? Are we using diesel? Are we using power ships? None of that. There is a lot of info, and it's probably a bit of info overload, and there's a lot of options. So I'm going to try and cover some basic things. But yeah, maybe you're sitting with, do I do 5 kilowatts? Do I do 8 kilowatts? Do I do gas? Do I do solar? Do I do batteries? Do I do nothing? Hopefully we can clear some of that up tonight. I think next slide, please, Grant. A good place to start is 3 questions. When am I most impacted? When is it a real pain for me? Is it while I'm trying to get supper ready for the kids at night? Is it while I'm trying to work during the day? So work out in your head when you're most impacted. Solve that problem. How important is it to solve that problem? Like maybe the impact is quite high, but you can get by about it. So really work on impact and importance of load shedding. And then obviously, what's your budget? There's just about something you can do at every stage with a little bit of money and with lots of money. And some solutions you can start small and grow into it. And so you don't have to solve the whole problem in one shot. All right. We're going to look at a few scenarios. Maybe some of these resonate with you where you're at with life. Okay, give me a sec just to get my notes in order. Okay, many of us are working from home, many of us are teaching from home. Internet, it's almost become like a basic human right, like water. I was about to say electricity and water. We don't have electricity anymore. But yeah, we almost can't survive without the internet. If that's you, most devices that we use to run our internet are low-powered Wi-Fi or router devices. Do yourself a favor, go and get one of these mini UPSs. They'll start anywhere from about 700 Rand, they'll go up to about 1,400 Rand, depending on how much stuff you've got to run. Some of them can even run your CCTV cameras. But those mini UPSs are great just to keep your internet on through a period of load shedding. 2-4 hours is really easy. Try and get rid of desktops. Try and move to tablets. Try and move to laptops. Laptops, wide range in prices. You maybe just need something kind of cheap and dirty to get email and a little bit of word processing done. If you're doing major graphic design, obviously the prices go up, the power consumption goes up. The reason I'm suggesting all of these things, they all run on batteries. It means you don't need power from Eskom to keep going with these things. So yeah, just some simple kind of things to think about if working from home, teaching from home is really important to you. All right, next one. Keep the lights on. These little battery, they call them battery light bulbs. They go for about $100 a pop. You literally take your old bulb out of your fitting, put one of these in. They normally charge while the power's on and the light is on. When Eskom goes off, the battery runs the actual light. Just a little tip, they'd work really well in single light fittings. So if you've got like one of these sets of 3 fittings in your kitchen, they're not really well suited for that because of the way the electrics work. They pick up neutral lines from other circuits and they get confused. But if you've got single light fittings, or just put one of these in your light fittings, it should work pretty well. We love hurricane lamps. Just be careful. Can be a bit of a fire risk, but yeah, it gives a nice bit of mood lighting, and in the middle of winter, it will give you a bit of heat as well. But really nice, cheap way to get some light and heat into your house. I was expecting load shedding tonight, but luckily they cancelled. These console jars are the bomb as well. They're not the cheapest thing in town. I think they go for about 300 Rand. Leave them on the windowsill for a couple of hours, close the little magnet, and then they're on. Very useful if you can mount them quite high. It gives a nice little bit of light if you need. All right, next one. Supper time, normally another crunch time. If you've got the counter space, a little 2-place gas cooker and a 3 kg gas bottle should set you back about 1,200 Rand plus some gas. It's not pretty, but it works and you can get some food on the table. If you've got the option, spend a few more dollars and maybe you've got a built-in electric oven and hob. Get rid of the electric hob, replace it with a gas hob. If you're freestanding, there are kind of electric gas freestanding ovens available as well. Yeah, just different price ranges depending on what your budget is. But the other great thing with gas is it's just another power source, and so you've got the option: electrics, gas, paraffin. So you're giving yourself lots of options to limit the impact of load shedding in your home. Okay, you might see little stars in some fine print. Always read the fine print. With gas, you do need a qualified installer. It does cost a little bit. Normally with gas hobs and ovens, it's about a 3,500 to 5,000 Rand install, and then it's qualified and certified and it's all legal. Don't take shortcuts. If something goes wrong, it's a big explosion. At worst, and the guys will love this if they ever get around to doing it religiously and predictably, a braai never was a bad option for supper. Alrighty, bath time. Most of us are reliant on Eskom to heat our geysers. So this isn't really a load shedding hack, but it does help make sure you've got hot water all the time. It's one of these little geyser-wise timers. Geyser-wise is been used. It was developed in South Africa and has been used quite a lot when solar geysers and solar water came into the mix a few years ago. It just helps you set different time schedules. So you could set kind of 4 different schedules during the day for your geyser to come on. And at least then if you're hitting 1 or 2 load shedding schedules during the day, your geyser will come on automatically during other schedule or kind of other time slots during the day. And so, yeah, for not too much, I think it's about 2,000 Rand installed. They can be retrofitted to just about any South African geyser that was made in the last 15 odd years. So very widely available and accessible, and will just make sure you always got hot water. Gas is the other option. Again, needs a qualified installer. There you can probably get away for about 9,000. I don't know about you. I hate gas heaters. I've never had a comfortable shower in a gas heater with them. But yeah, maybe you're different. Other option is just adding solar to your geyser. Again, price goes up. But the good option there is you may still need Eskom in the really cold, dark winter months, but we installed solar at our spot 10, 15 years ago. I think we switch on our geyser for maybe 5-6 hours in the winter. The rest of the time the sun does the work. So a little bit of money up front, but you do really start saving money from day one with a solar geyser. All right, I think there is one more. If you want to keep some appliances on, these little portable power boxes or inverter trolleys are really useful. They generally start at about 4,000-5,000 Rand. Something like I've got up there will keep a TV on for about 3 or 4 hours, if Netflix is really important to you. It could keep your fridge going. It's just if you need some kind of appliances running. The downside with those portable boxes is they need to be unplugged and replugged. So every time Eskom goes off, you have to unplug from mains, plug into one of these things. Remember to charge the thing when it's done again. Another option, and it's becoming a cheaper and cheaper option, is to go for an installed system. You can probably get away with something in about 15,000 these days. There are a lot of kind of vendors starting to do what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of payers, rental, kind of rent-to-own type models. Thank you, Marcus. They normally sell fairly standard packages across the board. Just be careful of them. I'm not saying they're not worth doing, but get your bang for buck out of your solar system. They're generally coming out with 5 kilowatt batteries, 5 kilowatt inverters. I guarantee what you will normally run out of those things will be 1 or 2 kilowatts. And so you're paying a lot of money to have the 5 kilowatts, but never using it. So make sure you maximize what you're paying for in those 5 kilowatts. Put the washing machine on, put the dishwasher on there. Maybe you have to be a little bit more careful about, okay, I'm only going to use the dishwasher during the day when I've got some solar coming in. And when I know the geyser won't be on, and maybe I'm not going to be watching too much TV. So you may have to do a little bit of juggling, but at least you're utilizing the full 5 kilowatts. Or do a little bit of scratching around and maybe go for a slightly lower one, a 1 or a 2 kilowatt system. So for a 2 kilowatt system, you can run a fridge, a TV, probably 5 to 7 lights, a Bluetooth speaker, a couple of desk lamps, and something like that would cost you 16,000 Rand installed. You don't always need fancy lithium batteries. Sometimes the good old lead acid is good enough to keep you going. And so, again, just back to the original principle, understand when it hits you the most, what problem are you trying to solve, and what's your budget. And you can probably use a lot of this just to limit the impact of load shedding. Cool, thank you.
Dave, thanks so much. I mean, one question, and maybe it's kind of impossible to answer, but just your thoughts on given how long we do think load shedding is going to be around for. If one does have, say, a lump sum, again, every situation is going to be different, but do you think this is a good thing to invest in? Like, if you've got the lump sum, do you actually save money long term by doing it? Is it worth taking a bit of it up front, given what's going to be happening with load shedding, given the money you can save long term?
Yeah, that is a tricky one. So if I look at, so on average, these 5 kilowatt times or 5 kilowatt off-the-shelf packages are coming in at about probably 85, 95,000. I think the first question to ask yourself is how much electricity you're paying every month. So if your electricity bill is 2,000 Rand a month, and by using something like that, you can get it down to 1,000. Cool, now you're saving 1,000 Rand a month. You got 96 months to pay that off before you start seeing a return on in that investment. And I think that's the kind of maths to look. There'll be other advantages if Cape Town is really driving hard at selling back into the grid, and so on sunny days you've got the opportunity to just recoup a little bit of that investment.
I know you do that. Is that actually, are you seeing the benefits of that?
I haven't done it yet,
Okay.
but that is one of the reasons we're doing it.
But that system is up and running and working. And
Yeah.
Generally in Cape Town.
Okay. So it is quite a, but I think try and work out what it's going to cost you, what your current bill is, what you think you're going to save, and there you've got your run rate of how much you're going to pay back. The other thing, and it's a really difficult part of the equation, is how much easier is your life because you don't have to worry about load shedding. Yeah. That's a comfort factor that is very subjective.
Dave, have a seat. I'm going to throw this over to the floor. I've got a microphone here. Any questions for any one of our guests? Yes, Gary.
Can you all hear me without the mic? Dave, this is one that my aunt taught me. When you boil a kettle and you make a cup of tea, there's always leftover residual hot water, because you don't get your ratio right of your cup. That's an expensive. But what I'm suggesting is those that don't have weeds and they've finally eliminated their weeds, is reserve that hot water to throw it into a flask on your kitchen counter. Then when you've got your load shed, you're not using gas, which is more expensive than electricity. That's an option. The other one that I know it's another technical question is you're running vacuum tubes, I presume, for heating your hot water. How many liters per vacuum tube are you using roughly?
How many heaters?
No, how many vacuum tubes per literage?
I'm not running vacuum tubes. I'm running the slightly cheaper one, which is
Quick hot.
the quick hot system. I haven't done the maths but I mean we're typically running one panel, which kind of on a day like today is heating 150 liters of water to get us through.
Other questions? Oh, there we go.
Hello, this is for Ewan. Just with the garden, we live in a flat, tiny space to grow indoor plants, but we're really interested in growing herbs and to using the cooking. Any advice on when to grow herbs or what herbs work the best indoors, or any advice there?
You came up with a tricky one. It's not really in the garden. If you're growing in a flat and you've got a windowsill, you can probably grow anything at any time of the year, any herb. Probably in the summer, you'd need to move it away from the windowsill because you're going to burn your herbs. They're going to die. But the herbs you want to grow, I would say try them. There are easy ones to grow, like oregano and parsley and things like that. But yeah, I would plant what you want to eat rather than plant what's going to survive, or if you're going to eat it, then I'd plant it. Yeah. Oh, while I got the microphone, I forgot to say that these plants here, you guys can cut and take, and if you want to be shown how to do it, like before you take, then I can show you again, like personally.
Great, thanks.
If you look under your chairs, there's a free book I've recently written.
So, Caitlin, you asked the wrong question for Ewan. You need to say, Ewan, tomorrow morning, can you pop around and grow me a herb garden?
Any other questions? Yeah.
My children used to teach online, so their computers had to last a certain amount of time, and we had the mini UPS. But myself, our family, and others have known the batteries have problems after a very short while. So we never figured out where to get replacements and who to do that. And everyone says it's easy, but we haven't figured that out.
So there's a difference between these new mini UPSs and the UPSs we used to kind of buy about 5 years ago, which used to use kind of the alarm batteries or gate motor batteries. Just as a general principle, the old style box UPSs are, for load shedding purposes, useless. They don't keep things, they really keep things up and running for 15 minutes, which gives you an opportunity to shut things down. And so, yeah, you want to move to things that have got a longer battery lifespan. So laptops will generally last kind of 4 to 6 hours on battery. Most of them, HP, Dell, will have some way to replace the batteries because they're battery cells that clip in and out. The actual mini UPS boxes, I don't know about replacing batteries. Most of the ones that I have used have lasted well beyond 2 years. And I haven't had to worry too much about replacing yet.
Mariska, there we go. One more over here, we'll come.
Just another quick question for Ewan. With regards to grass, when is a good time to put topsoil on, and what is the benefits of topsoil to make your grass stay greener in the summer months?
Okay, firstly, I wouldn't put topsoil on my grass. I'd put some lawn dressing on or top dressing. The best time is when the grass is growing, or going to be growing at its best. So that'll be springtime, early spring. You don't want to cover the grass. You just want to rake it in so the leaves are still showing. If you do it in the middle of winter, it just gets muddy and the grass doesn't grow through it. So springtime is the best time. What was the second part? How do you keep it green? Yeah, that's water. Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay, so this one is for David as well. So I've been looking into getting into online teaching, and a big thing about that is looking at UPSs, at inverters, at generators, and everyone has their own opinion about what each of them does. At the end of the day, as far as I can understand it, UPSs are pretty much just for saving files, shutting things down, you don't have any surprises and shocks. And then the inverters are for a little bit, more long term, that actually last through load shedding. But if you want it to last for more than 2 hours, then you've got to spend at least 8,000 Rand. And then generators make a lot of noise. So from you, I'd like to find out, what would be the most cost-effective? In your opinion, what is the best overall solution that's going to get through 2.5 to 4 hours of load shedding?
So depending on what you're powering, so if it's largely laptops that that'll have their own power source or their own battery, I would probably look at one of those portable power stations for about 5,000 odd rand, because then you've got the benefit of having the laptop battery and some other way of charging that battery once you go beyond the 2 hours. And that's normally that should give you enough juice to get through at least 4 to 6 hours.
Let's say the part of the requirements for teaching would be a proper full-on desktop computer.
You could probably do it with one of those as well. Maybe you'd have to increase the watts. So if I say the capacity and in terms of what it can handle. So maybe instead of a 400 watt, you need to be thinking about a 6 or an 800 watt. And then in terms of battery size, maybe a 1,000 watt hour battery, because that then gives you 500 watts over 2 hours. So you're always looking at capacity. How much do I need to keep this thing running? And then the battery is normally rated in watt hours. So that'll, if I need to keep 500 watts running for an hour, that means I need 1,000 watts of battery power to keep it running for 2 hours. I think those portable power ones are probably the best bang for buck. The next one up would be one of those probably 1 kilowatt installed systems, so that it's on a specific plug circuit in your house and it always stays plugged in and you never worry about having to unplug and replug things as load shedding. Then you're probably looking at the 15,000 Rand plus.
And you would choose that over the generator? Is that what you're saying?
If you want to be nice to your neighbors, don't use a generator.
Fair enough.
Okay. One more. Alex, okay, last one.
This is for John. Do you have any hacks for how to take a nice professional photo, like for your corporate website or LinkedIn or something like that?
You need to create, depending on where you are you talking about just by yourself? You do it alone, or you've got someone to help you? Okay, most important thing is your light source. So you don't actually need to buy flash gear. You can use continuous light, which is just general light. Whether you have an LED light or you have a normal bulb, try and set something up and try and make it as a bigger light source as you possibly can. Because the bigger the light source and the closer it is to you, the softer the light. As soon as you move light away from you, it hardens. That's why, even though the sun's so big, we have such a clear shadow, is because of the distances it is away from us. So it's just the bigger the source is, the closer it is, and obviously not coming into your shot. Whatever you use, that's going to give you a softer light. Now, if you imagine light moving around your face, if it's right here, you get half light. It's all different names, loop light, backlight, but I'm just giving you an idea. Just keep moving that light, watching it on your screen. If you want Rembrandt, if you really want to look cool, you just create a little nose shadow here, so you look like those Renaissance paintings. And the squarer you go, the broader your face is. But if you can take it off center, you create a bit of a shadow, you narrow your face out. Now, if you imagine turning your face to the side like this, and that light's here, you're lighting up the whole side. That's called broad light. But if I move my face here, I create a bigger shadow than I do light. That's called narrow light. So just mix it around. Generally, what's more pleasing is a narrow light source, close to the face, nice and soft, and then you'll get a nice photograph. Cool.
Yeah, sure, go for it. You ask a question. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's kind of weird because I've actually got a cupboard question. So my question is, I've got more clothes in my cupboard than I need because sometimes I'm fat, sometimes I'm not. Not because of pregnancy, because of yeah. So I yeah. So my question is, what should I keep those clothes for those times of my life, or should I keep the ones that I feel happy in, which are the thin ones? and try stay thin, or yeah, what's your advice?
I just want to ask first, like, no, for reals, like, how often do you plump up? No, for reals. Well, I would totally, like, I would go Marie Kondo again. If you don't know, just Google. I would put them in an independent bag with the sizing. So if you have achieved that sizing again, you go to number 36 or 34 or 32. If you are that person that fluctuates in size, keep the clothes, but just keep them with a number, because the number is a reality that you have to live with. So just keep it, and when you plump up, when you're feeling a little bit like less happy, then you just grab them and be happy again because you look good.
Ewan's got 6 seasons. He's got the 4 seasons, plus he's got fat and thin as well.
Guys, thank you so much. It's been fascinating. And I've learned so much from each of these presentations. Why don't we give these guys another round of applause? Let me just close with one little reminder. You may be familiar with this, but we've got, starting in 2 weeks' time, exactly 2 weeks now, we've got our life series. This might be something you're interested in. It might be something you could invite a friend to. Please think about that. It's a really informative course. And yeah, any questions, welcome. Maybe you're kind of just dipping your toe into Christian things and you want to find out more. This is a great next step for you. Let me just close. I just wanted to close. Sorry to close on a slightly more serious note, but we've been discussing life hacks, and we're just aware that with this taxi strike, there are people out there tonight and through this week who are just really struggling. I thought it'd be good just to close in prayer, just to pray for our city, for people in the city who have really been struggling this week. Why don't you join me as we pray? Heavenly Father God, we thank you for the time we've had tonight just to hear good, wise advice that helps us day to day. Father, we are also aware that so many people in our city are struggling this week as we live through these taxi riots. It's affected all of us here in some way, but we know some people are struggling to get to work. Some people are struggling with violence on their doorsteps. And Father, we do pray for your help with all of this. We do pray for wisdom for our leaders. We pray for justice. We pray that you would bring an end to these strikes. We pray, Lord, that you would bring an end to the violence. We pray, Father, especially for Christians in these communities, that you would help them to be salt and light, that you would help them to keep on trusting in you through this hardship. And Father, help us to, as a church, to be a help to those who are in need. We do ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you on Sunday. All the best. Enjoy the public holiday tomorrow.